All right, we're live. Hi, it's Katie Harris, owner and CEO of Nursepreneurs.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Weberding. I'm CEO and founder of Nurse Assure.
All right, so Jill, what are we talking about today? We're, I know a lot of the students have questions about marketing, but do you have any particular ones, or we can, I can come up with some topics that we could certainly talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody thinks that, they say marketing, but it's so big that like category, a lot of people don't know where to start. Like, What's the first step? Maybe we can like walk through, okay, you're starting with zero. What's the first thing that you need to do?
I would say your most important thing even before you start the business, even if you haven't started a business, you don't want a business, anything, your network is the most important thing that you have in your capacity, because ultimately the business becomes who you know.
Yes.
And who you know is vital. And we've seen this with some of our students, especially that want to do consulting or get into consulting, and they don't know any the hospital admins or execs, or they're not sure what their problems are, and that it makes for a huge disconnect. Like it's very, very hard to get into that. So it's like, and you don't want your first message to be, "Hi, I'm here to sell you something." Yeah,
it cannot be a pitch.
Yeah.
So I would agree with that. It is, and that's a little daunting, because when you say, well, it's about who you know, it is about your network, but that's not a finite thing. So if you're starting at zero, you can still be successful in business, but you have to consciously and very intentionally every day be expanding your network, right? Like you need to have a plan. So if you aren't connected to those people, and I do work a lot with a lot of nurses who are, becoming, consultants in their field of expertise, which is a huge need, quite frankly, because, and I talk about that on a whole nother episode, but that you have to start reaching out. And so if it's with, leaders and professionally, it really should be done on LinkedIn. Like that's where, if otherwise you can also use your current network and say, hey, do you know anyone in this area? Would you be willing to connect me? And so like you start building that network of, hey, I'm also in oncology. I love to, and I've been doing this myself, working with the oncology platform that I'm working with, the startup. It's like I'm expanding my oncology network. And the first thing is just connecting and building that relationship. And it doesn't happen overnight. And it sure as heck should not happen with a request to connect and then the pitch attached to that. Right? Like, who's going to accept that request? Nobody. And once they connect, I also don't immediately pounce like a, MLM or, car salesman. Like as soon as you get on the property, they're like, boom, it's like swarm. But you can't do that.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing that people don't understand, especially with LinkedIn, because I get these automated messages constantly, and they're completely ineffective because I have no interest in any of them. But what is more work? So that's something we all want to just automate it, and we send out 1,000, and then we get 10,000 in our bank account magically somehow. But automating something like that really reduces your numbers significantly, as opposed to if you make that contact and then find something personal to talk about with that person. And that is a way much more work.
But it's a way in, and you have a much higher chance of succeeding in building that relationship. So maybe look at their articles on LinkedIn or something that they just posted and congratulate them, and then send a personal message. I connected with someone recently who was, she's like the VP of Cancer Care Services, and it's at my very first hospital. Like they've grown, now they're considered a hospital system, but when I was there, it was like, oh my gosh, thank you for posting. I love to see the growth in the program. And this is where I got my oncology start a million years ago. Like that's at least a real connection, as opposed to just a pitch. Like I would never, it's not effective. If you don't want to be pitched to, consider that no one else does either. So it's not a way to build a relationship.
Right. Yeah. And of the last, I would say 50 LinkedIn requests that I got, I literally looked at one message that, I could tell it was a personalized message, and I actually read it and I responded to her, and, we're having this communication now about, a particular interest that she had. But the other 99 people that sent me automated messages, I just ignore them. And then the ones that make me really annoyed are like, hey, is something wrong? It's like their follow-up message, and you're like, oh my God, this just makes me not want to talk to you at all. Like,
yeah, like, I mean, and so also guys, really consider before, I know, again, like Katie said, everybody wants the easy button. You want to automate email sequences. Yes, you can build those to automate once you have a list. But this kind of personal, reaching out and building those initial connections, bots are like, and LinkedIn is starting to crunch down on them as well. And so if you have tons and tons of requests and people are ignoring them, like Katie just said she does, and I do too, if you ignore them or delete or block them, like you're going to get hit hard. Like they are crunching down on those because it ruins the whole purpose behind the platform.
Right. And when you think about it, like marketing, you have to think of marketing as building relationships, and you're not going to build relationships by sending random text messages to people and say, hey, will you be my friend? Like it's weird. That would be weird.
Will you be my friend? 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 They're like, who the hell are you? Like they don't even know who you are.
But you have to approach the marketing in the same respect. Like, will you be my partner? Will you be my business partner? Will you be my business? No, like go away. That's just weird.
Who are you? And why would I even have a conversation?
Right. And that's what makes marketing much easier, but also much harder, because you're going to go in this in a very authentic way and try and build relationships. But like you said, this is going to take way more time. You're not going to get it done in 2 weeks and have all these business. I mean, the 1.0001% chance that you go out there and your marketing's done in 2 weeks. Great for you, but for the most of us,
marketing's never done.
No, it's never done. But you need a runway of like 6 months. Like you have to I've had nurses. They're like, I've been in business for 3 weeks and I don't have any clients. And I'm like, are you serious? Like,
and and also keep in mind that you don't need 10,000 contacts to have an incredibly successful business. Right. That's also the benefit of having relationships, right? And developing relationships, because when you do, they know, like, and trust you, and they come to you when something comes up in your realm of expertise. So that's why it's so important to brand what it is that you do and stay in that lane, stay in that, stay under that, umbrella of services, so that you build that and they know you are now the go-to person. And because you're in their personal network, they're not only going to use you, they may also refer their friends, people that you aren't connected to, when they hear that they're having an issue. So you don't have to have the vanity metrics. We're not talking about followers here through LinkedIn. We're talking about actual connections and building relationships. It's very different, but it's key to successful marketing.
Yeah, I mean, because how many people, if you looked at your LinkedIn profile list, how many of them could you call and say, hey, can you help me out? Like, if you can't do that, then they're not a real connection. So, that's something that you want to build. And one of the things that we tell our nurses is to come up with a list of between 50 and 100. I would typically start with that list of 50. And here's what you need to do for the next 12 weeks to get in front of, or 12 different ways to get in front of them weekly, right? So it's like, maybe you post on LinkedIn and you highlight their name and, just they can see what you've posted, or you send them a personalized message, not like, come check out my hour-long webinar or buy my stuff. Or, you could send them a DM or an email or like something that they've done, or, there's so many things you could do. but be very strategic about those 50 people, and over 12 weeks, be persistent and consistent in trying to build a relationship. You're not going to build a relationship with all 50, but there's a very good chance that you'll get some really good contacts from that.
And they'll that forces you to also, when you are doing that, like if you're going to be, that it forces you to post or do a video or do an article and then refer back to other people. But here's the reality: that gets you in front of the news feed of other people who you aren't currently trying to build, and they will see you too. And so it can have the benefit of that they may then reach out to you when they see consistently, oh, this is what Jill does. Okay, this is what Katie does. And so again, if something comes up, you're building know, like, and trust, even with the people who are just watching as voyeurs, right? But you want to be intentional of not trying to I want to build a relationship with everybody. That's very overwhelming and daunting. You need to be specific of who it is. So make your list, whoever that is. Honestly, I don't even care if it's, 40 or 25. Just pick a number and be intentional with those specific contacts.
Yeah, absolutely. And that will get you way farther. And yeah, it's not, there's this kind of illusion or myth that, you're going to get 10,000 people and, you're going to make all this money really quick. And it just doesn't happen that way. Like, you want to do it in a very strategic way so that you're not kind of backpedaling and you're not buying lots of stuff for shiny objects. But if you do it this way, it's almost like a flywheel. And somebody explained this to me one time, and it really caught my attention. And it's really, really, really hard to push at first, but once it starts moving, I think of that like with your first 1, 2, 3 clients, customers, relationships. It might be hard to get those first couple, but then they start to exponentially grow.
Yeah. And and that's just like you get a few, in the beginning, you may not have any testimonials. So people are looking for social proof. So you might need to do a couple of, you may have to do a beta group. You may have to do, get testimonials from people that you have worked with who can at least attest to your character and your expertise in your field. And that still is a testimonial and social proof. So put that on your website if you need to in the beginning. And then once you get those first 5, whatever, be, conscious and try to get, ask them for a testimonial. And that does start to build. Now people start seeing social proof. We all look for it, right? We all want to know that who we're going to, who have they worked with? And that's the whole, as seen on this. And the more articles you post, the more now you can claim, as seen on allnurses.com, as seen on whatever, wherever it is, this podcast, you're getting people's attention, you're building credibility.
Right.
So I don't care if it's consulting or, whatever it is you're doing, you're building credibility, but none of it just happens and shows up in your lap. You're building that through specific intentional actions that you're taking.
Yeah. And especially online, because everybody has this fear of being spammed and scammed and, you don't know who to trust. And that was actually one of the emails that I got on LinkedIn, because she was talking about one of our programs, and she's just like, I've been researching a lot of this stuff. And she's like, I just don't know who I can trust.
Yeah.
And, I said, well, let's hop on a call. We'll talk. You've seen our website. She thought we were very reputable. And it was a big deal. So, but that didn't come the first time I launched a course. I mean, the first time I launched a course, I was devastated, but in retrospect, I'm extremely grateful to those 4 people that bought that course. Because that was the starting point.
It was the start of everything. And everybody starts there. Everybody starts somewhere. Everybody started with their first client. And hopefully, if you're smart, you celebrated the heck out of that when you got them, right? Because that is truly the beginning. But it doesn't open the floodgates. It still is. Of course, it's work, guys. This is nursing, and nurses in business, nursepreneurship. It's a specialty. It's just like any other specialty. You don't walk in to a new critical care specialty or OR or, any of these other specialties, and on day 1 or even 3 weeks in, master it. You just don't, right? I mean, you can't. So part of it is, again, understanding your expectations. And so it does look different in business because it's not the typical learning curve. We're not learning the kinds of things that you would normally learn in a different specialty. You're learning business things. You're learning marketing. You're learning messaging. You're learning a lot of those business aspects that you don't have in other nursing specialties, but it's all wraps around your nursing expertise. And that's what you're actually selling. The solution is your nursing expertise in whatever way you're packaging it.
Exactly. So now that we cleared that up.
All right. So the first thing, marketing, you said first step is start building your network.
Yeah.
Start making, being intentional. So make that top 50, top 40, top 25 list of who it is that you want to reach out to and start being intentional, trying to connect with them, and then doing the things, the dailies, the weekly, activities that will get you in front of them so you can, send them personal messages or keep, getting in front of their feed. Then what's next? What would be your next step, Katie?
My next step would be to, it would be kind of simultaneous. So we'll talk about one thing first. And that would be doing some more credibility building factors. So writing blogs, doing blog posts on other people's sites, doing podcasts on other people's sites, and just kind of getting your story out there, and not on your website, because if you're just starting, nobody's coming to your website. They don't.
And that's not social proof. It's just something you put on there.
Right. So if you go on these other places, you write a blog post for, I don't know, let's say All Nurse, or even you write it and put it on, what's that called? Medium.com or Thrive Global or something like that. And people see that, again, you're not going to have a rush of people. I mean, sometimes actually you do have a rush of people, but typically, you'll get some readership, or, people might email you and have some interest in what you're doing. But as you kind of build up that portfolio and that goes on your website, that really helps a lot. And the second piece to that is, like, when you do go on these podcasts, it's fleeting attention, right? So you go on the podcast and you're like, oh, that was great. But if you didn't send people anywhere, you didn't send them to a landing page or get their email address somehow, then they may remember to come back to your website. They may not, because most people, when you reach them at a certain given point, like only 3% might be ready to buy what you have, and the other 97% will come back. Well, not all 97% will buy, but they'll come back later. And if you have something that other people have as well, they might start searching your company. They're like, oh, what was the name of that business? And they start searching for, the cannabis. And then they find, other cannabis places. Yeah.
So, you want to use it as a springboard, right? So, and that's, the intent of content strategy. And we talk about that every Friday. But like when you're doing those things, it should be pointing people back to you. You want to there's no reason to do activities with no intention behind it. Like, what is the goal? So think about that every time you create. What is the goal of being this podcast guest? What is the goal of writing this article? Maybe you're challenging an industry norm and your solution is different than what everybody's doing, and it's why they're on the struggle bus. Great article. And then point it back to, your website, to your solution, so that people come back. And now, like Katie said, they're going to say, I want to learn more about her. Like, I want to check some more of her stuff out. And now they're going to start a little bit of the online stalking, right? They're going to be like, okay, is she legit? Or is he legit? Or like, what else has she done? What else have they done? Are there any videos? Like, what can I get my hands on? Are there any freebies? Are there anything I can get my hands on that starts to show me that she really knows what they're talking about and they're providing value? I'm already getting value and having ahas just by what I can access, right? That's huge.
Yeah. And you said videos, and videos are huge. And if you're open to doing videos, and I'm a little bit of a pot calling the kettle black, because I know I need to do more videos, and it's just like, prioritizing all the things that I have to do gets hard. But it is so important. And I can't tell you how many people come through our YouTube channel based on videos that I've done over the last year. And I know if I did more, I could increase that traffic exponentially. So shame on me for that, but I'm getting to it, I swear.
Yeah. But that's the power of doing content like a video or even an article. I've had people who have reached out to me, like somehow an article has like resurfaced after it was like more than, I don't even know if it was 18 months or it was over a year. And like a couple of people came on, found the article, made comments, it pulled it up to a feed, and somebody reached out and emailed me and like, hey, I saw your comment on this. I really like what you had to say on this article. And I didn't even write the article. I commented on it. And it's like, where did that was a year ago. Like what happened? And that's the evergreen power of, search engines, and once it's out there, it's still out there. I've had oncology nurses reach out to me about blog posts that I did 3 years ago. I mean, YouTube videos, same thing, because that's when they search for those keywords. And that's why it's really important to have keywords in your titles, in your videos, because when they search for that question, it will pull, no matter if it's 3 days, 3 months, or 3 years, it will pull your stuff up. It's really powerful.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And you can also repurpose it, which is really nice too. So one of the things that we've done specifically with our podcast is, we do the audio, and then we transcribe the notes and turn that into a blog post, and then those go into like social media posts, and you just repurpose everything. And it's not a direct transcription. It's, something that the author said or the speaker said, and then we kind of build a little bit of a blog post. And the blog post doesn't have to be long, but it's very kind of like to the point, knock out some of the key factors of what they said, because everybody likes to learn in different ways. Some people like to listen, some people like to read. So I mean, I'm a reader. Like, if a video doesn't have like subtitles on it, I can't. I just like to watch the subtitles on a video. But
turn the audio off.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do.
Yeah, a lot of people can't read. Not that they can't read, but they don't like to read. They'll only watch videos. So you have to be in multiple different formats like that.
And that's just the working smarter, not harder, right? So instead of churning out 3 times the original content, you take that one video and then you edit and break it up, right? And use it in those different ways. And, Katie, in the group here, you've got that how to repurpose your content. That's one of the little courses, one of the mini courses that you have available. And I've done a content strategy week on this as well. And it really, truly is about not working harder, because we don't need anything more on our to-do list, but we do need to work smarter so that what content we do create, the marketing or content piece that we put out, that we're putting it on multiple, platforms, as well as in multiple, like mediums, like you're talking about. So we do hit those visual, the audio, and the, those who like to read just the blog post.
Right. And, so putting out something weekly can be very time consuming, and you don't have to hold yourself to that standard, quite yet. Because to me, it's better to put out one quality video and blog post a month. Like if you can commit to that, you'll still get out 12 blog posts and 12 videos over the course of a year. And that's
every other week, every third week. Anything, like if you say there's no way I could do it weekly. Okay. How about twice a month? Like just start, and then it becomes a non-negotiable for you. So whatever you choose, it now becomes a non-negotiable. There is no going to bed until that is done.
It's kind of like when you were at work, if you had a deadline, you're going to meet that deadline, right? And I think you have to treat your business in a professional manner, because if you're an amateur about it, an amateur is going to be like, oh well, I didn't hit that nobody noticed, but
dang, I didn't get that done.
Yeah, they do notice, because if it's not out there
this week and I didn't get it done, that is very true. That is a huge difference, and it's much harder to have that kind of self-discipline on your own as an entrepreneur versus when you were at the job. So, like whatever you got to do, whether that's a paper calendar or, or a whiteboard calendar or something on your wall in your office, wherever you work, like that is a deadline. Like you have decided these are the most important things. So you can't, again, have a laundry list of 25 things you're going to get done this week. Like, what's your 3 things a day? And by the end of the week, you'll get 15 things done. And if you just work Monday through Friday, and that still is probably more than if you would have had the same laundry list every single day.
Right. Yep. No, it's true. And I've definitely had that experience where, like I will put 25 things on my list because I can, and only 3 things get done. And it's amazing.
What the heck?
This is still due tomorrow now, but and you can go on forever like that. So it's better just to kind of like, let's be realistic with our time and let's know when we're finished. Cause I think that's really important, because for me, like the work is never done. Like I could work 15, 16 hours a day and there's still be more stuff to do, but it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of my family and lifestyle. And so it's like
your health, your mental health, your physical health, like all those things. So
I want to know when I'm done. And if I have 3 things set up for the day, knowing that forevermore I'm going to have things to do, but if I get these 3 things done, then I'm done.
And that also helps fuel you, because you feel the win. Like you can feel like the accomplishment, right? Because you have gotten something tangible. Okay, I said I was going to do this and I did it. And I know those things are going to be important and are going to help move the needle. And so now what's the next 3 most important things? I'm going to do those. Like, what is that?
Right. And it helps you from taking on too many big projects, which is something that I suffer from, because, I realize, I just can't get it done. When you look at your calendar and you see you have the dentist appointment here, you got to go to your son's soccer game there. And it's not physically possible for you to get all the things done that you think you're going to get done. And I mean, don't put that kind of pressure on yourself. But like it's really important, because then you just kind of start beating yourself up, and then it's a mindset issue. Then you need to go to Inner Gain, because
then you need to come see me. Well, and the other thing you were talking about is I just lost it. What my train of thought about the important things. Like you get done what is right?
There's always time in the day
we'll
for
prioritize. We make time for what's important, but we don't make time for 40 things on your to-do list. It feels like, well, I'm never going to get that done anyway, so I might as well just watch Netflix, right? Like it's easy to give in. So you're truly setting yourself up for sabotage when you do that. So versus saying, okay, it is only 3 things, and these things are so important. So you have to be able to prioritize, like what is actually going to move the needle in your business. Is creating, spending an entire day creating social media graphics gonna grossly move the needle more so than reaching out and doing connections, or actually publish, recording a short video and putting it out on YouTube? Like what's more likely going to actually generate you getting in front of people and generate a return? Like that's how you prioritize. What's going to get me closer to a sale? And has to be part of the relationship building. You got to build a relationship before that. So what are those important things?
Right.
Instead
and
of
that's something you need to map out over the course of the month. So like just taking a calendar. I mean, I like paper calendars. So I've got like a big paper calendar that I plug all over the place. So I need to see visually what it looks like. So if I have we were doing launches like every Wednesday. So if I have a launch here, I've got to set up the webinar there, and then I've got to do this and this and this and this. And that takes up a lot of time. And the only thing I can do are launches, because that's all I have time for in the day, which means that, other things will suffer. Which came at a cost of like list building for us. And that's something that I'm like, all right, well, now I got to focus on list building again, because, we were doing all these launches and I wasn't focused on list building. And then your clientele, that once you stop marketing, you stop. We were only selling, we weren't marketing. And once you stop marketing, your pool dries up. So like Jill said, you're always marketing. You're never going to stop marketing.
Never stopping.
Right. So it's something that you have to just build into your life.
Yeah. And don't resist it, right? Again, like think of it like, and I was talking to, one of the nurses in the group this week, and it was like, you get really kind of resistant when it comes to like making offers. Like you might even have, you might even get them on a discovery call, but there's like, you can feel the tension in yourself, the energy shift, and the tension start like heating up, right? Because you know what's coming. It's same like Ellie or Katie, when you're doing the webinars, it's like, the transition point and people can feel it too. And so like you start getting nervous about, okay, this is the point where I switch to the sales pitch, or this is where I tell them how much it costs, or whatever it is. And so if you view marketing like that, if you view selling and marketing, if that is how your perspective of what you're doing, you're coming at it from the wrong way. Like it's always going to feel, it likely will feel hard. You may have a lot of resistance to it. But if you come from the place of, it's just building relationships, increasing connections to people who are like-minded and who you may potentially be able to collaborate with, or that you can help solve a problem. You're literally giving them an opportunity to have less problems by working with you because you have a solution. And so if you come at it from a different angle versus if you're beating your head against like, oh, marketing, or oh, selling, I hate it. I hate making offers. I hate talking about price. If you have that kind of energy, it comes through. Like it's just, you're going to be it's going to continue to be hard. It's going to be continue to be slow, and you're going to have that resistance because it's all energy. So if you can try to reframe and switch your perspective a little bit, it will make a huge difference.
Right. And I think too, when you kind of price those things out, it helps a lot. And, we recently had a call with one of our students who, is a total expert in what she does. And she can come up with things very easily, and wanted to just kind of throw that stuff in for free and just be like, oh, I can do this and I can do this and this. We're like, we know you can do it. And I know it's easy. And because it's easy, you don't value it. But let's look at what this is worth to them.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about that. Once you realize, and we were calculating that she could save thousands, tens, and like a lot of money. Like, we were in the 100,000s, just with what she could do. And now we're saying, you're almost like, oh my God, it's only $1,000, or it's only $2,000 extra, and I'm going to save you 100,000. I mean, you have to be a moron not to take that.
That's crazy. But we can get into that expertitis, right? Like where it's just easy, and you're like, oh, I can just do it. You throw that in. That's no big deal. Or I've already got that done. I've already got it created. But they really want it.
If you throw it in, they'll just be like, oh well, it was just a freebie. It was nothing.
Yeah.
And they don't value it either. It's like, and that and if you've ever bought stuff online, if you've got a free version, you don't value it nearly as much as if you paid like $5,000 for it. Like, oh my God, everything I need is in this $5,000 course, whereas you don't believe that everything you need is in the freebie version.
No, and it's not.
And it might be. Depending on the person, they might have put everything.
It depends on who it is.
But and you just you'll never know it because you don't value it.
Yeah. You might not even open it up.
Right. Yeah, I have a lot of those.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is just because it's easy for you and it's in your expertise, it doesn't mean that it's not really valuable. So think about what it is. Like we do talk about when you're creating courses that you're going to have bonuses, and those are important, but we wouldn't bonus what could be an entire second course, right? Like you wouldn't, like you have to be strategic about what you're considering bonus and freebies that you're throwing in, because what is the value of that? And if it's huge, and it was for, this nurse that we were talking to, she was consulting, and what she was just going to throw in actually translated into streamlining a lot of consistency for their entire staff and decreasing errors. And that meant reimbursement changes, and that meant dollars, like huge amounts of dollars, if they implemented and she gave them what she was going to give them. And I'm like, that's an upsell. That is a service. That's something separate. So not everything has that kind of value, but there are some pieces that do. So when you're thinking about what you're going to throw in and what you can give as a USP resource or something part of your program is one thing. You want to provide value there too, but there are different levels. And if what you could do is could stand alone on its own, just think about the value of that truly.
Yeah. And also, I mean, even if, let's say you do throw it in, let's say she had like a $10,000 package and she wanted to throw this in, you need to put a value on it. You need people to know that, hey, and I had this recently with a coach of mine who was like, well, I'm going to give you like this course that I'm doing. I'm starting it up in September and it's going to retail for like $2,500. I'm going to add that in. So, I need to know that there's what the value is to that. It's important psychologically to have it.
Otherwise, again, they won't know what they've got. And it could be huge for them. Right. And so again, just think about like, what's the testimonial from that side of it? Like if you could actually, this might be the piece that really shifts their business or shifts their struggle, gets them out of the struggle, gets the transformation, and they will be like, oh my gosh, that was that. I didn't know, like that's huge. And then they, again, are going to refer and recommend and all the things because you really made a huge difference, made a big impact in whatever it is.
Yeah. So I think in the beginning, really focusing in on like those first 50 people, your first 3 clients, just over delivering on that. And it will, again, the flywheel will start to turn much faster. But it's typically, and I'm going to generalize here, a very slow start for everybody. And I know it's easy to see people and they make everything look easy and fast and simple. But I don't know any nurse or entrepreneur that was an instant success, that didn't have any major problems, who didn't spend, a significant amount of money and invested in themselves to get to where they are.
Yeah, because it's a business. It's not a hobby. And so again, sometimes you have to ask yourself, am I in this for the long haul? Am I really in this as a entrepreneur and creating a business? And we've had nurses who realize that after getting started, that maybe that's not actually what they wanted. Maybe that isn't what they wanted. And that's okay. But the sooner you recognize that, the better, right? Because then you can, in your mind, subconsciously go either all in or say, oh, this is not it. But now I learned this is the part that I actually want. And so it can give you clarity into, what is actually next.
Yeah,
it might be being a contractor or something like that instead of being the actual full business yourself. It might be working as a contractor for someone else.
Right. Yeah, because learning, what you don't want and you don't like is just as important as knowing what you do.
Yeah. Certainly gets you closer to knowing what you want to do, right? And that's what I start with people who are like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, let's talk about what you hate. Let's talk about what you definitely don't want to do. And that'll start narrowing things down.
Yeah.
If you want to be able to work from home, okay. Well,
and it also helps to get that perspective too when somebody says, well, I'm going to do this business. And you're like, well, you just told me you hate doing X, Y, and Z. And that's exactly what that business is.
Yeah. Like concierge, like IV hydration. And they're like, I don't really like to talk to people though. And I'm like, that might not be the best fit for you. Med spa, like things that you're doing a lot of knocking on doors, self-promoting, meeting with clients, what I would call a little schmoozing and networking and things like that. I'm like, if you really hate that might not be the best choice.
Well, business might not be the best choice because going into business is about developing relationships, and you don't have to be an extrovert. You don't have to be the person that's the life of the party. That's not me at all, but I do enjoy getting to know a small number of people very well. Yeah. I'm never going to lead the next, I don't know, MegaCon, and have a party all night. Like that's just not my
style. Fun. I'll do that.
Jill will do that.
You do the daytime and I'll host the nighttime.
All right, that sounds good. That's why we're a good team.
I'll host the after party, networking, brainstorming. till 2 a.m.
That's up your alley.
Up my alley. Yeah. But see,
I'll hear about the highlights.
It takes different strokes. I know lots of introverted entrepreneurs who are wildly successful because they're really good at details, and they really are great one-on-one, and they just set their business up so it works with that strength versus needing to be somebody. And then if their business really needs it, that's their first hire, because that's not what they are good at, and it's not their strength, and so they would be resistant, and it would be hard, and they could be actually in their flow of their zone of genius and in flow doing what they do really, really well, versus trying to do the things that are just really out of not aligned with you and your values.
Actually, it was some of my first couple of really great mentors were like just top level people, and that was like John Carlton, who's a total recluse, and doesn't like to. He'll come out like 4 times a year, and that's for his mastermind meetings, and but he's very, very successful. So, but he does video, he connects, he writes well. I mean, obviously he's a copywriter, but he's able to connect with people without having to party with everybody. They're two completely different things. Yeah.
It's on his own terms, but you just be intentional with that. So don't fight it if that's not you. Not everybody's going to find success the right way, but again, just be intentional with your design. That's so important. Yeah. I really harp on that when everybody that I work with in the beginning about being really intentional in your design from the beginning, so that you don't have to backtrack and be like, okay, I really hate this. This is not what I wanted. It may be what you want. You just didn't design it right. You might be in the right space. It just you need to pivot a little bit and tweak a little bit.
And that's what we've done as well. Like, I've certainly have pivoted. There's things that I was like, I absolutely do not want to do this anymore. We're still going to offer it, but I'm not going to be the one that's doing it. And that's what I was able to do that. Like, you had to do it at first, just to get a proven concept. But then I was like,
okay. Yeah. Like, this is the first thing I'm handing off. This is on the delegation list, right? So once you work through it, it works. You have your steps. Okay, this is how I want it done. Now I want to get to the point where I can hand that off and pay someone to do that piece because I hate it. Yeah. Okay. All right, Katie. We're past the half hour. You want to wrap up with marketing?
We're afraid we wouldn't have anything to talk about.
I know. That's the way it always goes, right? Marketing is a huge, huge category. So do not get overwhelmed. Don't feel like just the load of the daunting task of how am I going to market my business. Break it down in chunks like we do everything, and start with a few steps that we gave you here. If you're coming right out of the gate with zero audience or a very small audience, and use those initial relationship building tips that we gave you today.
Definitely get to know those people. If you have 5 followers, you should know all of them.
Yeah, you should know them intimately. They should be able to, you should know them by name and be like, hey, how's your daughter? They're posting all those kinds of pics or whatever.
That's actually not a bad idea. Yeah, that's good.
People give you nuggets. And when you remember those things, your trust factor goes up exponentially, because they're like, oh, she really pays attention, or they really, I'm not just a number. They do really care about who I am and what I'm doing. And if I am struggling, they truly want to help me and want to see me succeed. So it's big. Don't underestimate that.
And you can only really do that in the beginning, because once you start getting like hundreds of emails a day, it all changes.
Yeah. You will be there soon enough. You really will. All right, guys. Post your marketing questions in the group. You can post them in a separate post or under this post in the group as well. Okay? All right. We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.